On this episode, I have the privilege of visiting with the artist Tim Cox as well as his wife Suzie, his longtime supporter and business partner. Tim Cox is one of America's best-known Western artists, and if you don't know his work, then you will be pleasantly surprised to discover it. Tim's authenticity and inspiring vision of the American West has not come quickly or easily. Tim, along with his wife Suzie, have paid their dues. Hard work, long days, and isolated cow camps are things they know very well.
I have been drawing and painting cowboy art and ranch scenes since I could hold a pencil. Horses, cattle, cow hands, and clouds are some of my favorite subjects.
Tim and Suzie, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Nice to be here.
Hey, I'm really excited to have you guys on and just, kind of hear your story and what your journey's been like. Tim, I'd like to start with you. Maybe if you don't mind just sharing kind of how things got started for you.
I've always drawn and painted my whole life. My earliest memories are of drawing on the kitchen floor on paper sacks and on the flyers in church and all kinds of stuff, just always drawing, and had a real supportive community of Duncan, Arizona. All the teachers had special projects for me, and when I was in 8th grade, my 8th grade teachers bought a couple of my paintings I did on paper, and so then the kids started buying them, and my dad started selling them to people at work, and so it just kind of naturally evolved into it's all I ever have done except the cowboy part. And then when Suzie and I got married, started in the galleries in 1975, and been doing it ever since then. We started with Trailside Galleries in Scottsdale, Arizona, and this is all I've done my adult life for the most part.
It means a lot to me to have you guys come on the show. I think one of the neatest things that y'all have always done are the calendars. I know the calendars are such a big thing. Everybody knows the artwork. I grew up, just on a ranch, poor ranching kid. We didn't have the internet back then, and I used to, tear the pictures out of the calendar, and I put them in an old. I had like an old, those old photo albums with the peel and stick thing. You could stick them in there, and I swear that thing's around somewhere. It's probably in a box at my mom and dad's house.
Oh, that's nice, and that's a good to hear. Makes me happy.
I know so many people, know the artwork and probably, grew up appreciating it like I did. And so, I wanted to share that because, I'm pretty thankful that that's something that y'all did that I feel like you were able to share it with, people that wouldn't otherwise been able to maybe go to a gallery or obtain it. Maybe they didn't have the finances, their parents didn't collect art, that kind of thing. So,
I appreciate you sharing that story with us. That's really nice. How many years have we been doing that?
Since 1986 was the first year we did it. And the company's changed hands a couple of times, but now it's owned by Big Graphic. And we're still doing calendars. We're selling the 2021s right now, or 2022, I think. No, 2021s for this next year for like people that want to put their feed store or something like that on the imprint. We sell them like that too.
What was the turning point for you where you felt like you kind of became a professional artist?
Well, like I say, and when I got in the galleries, I felt like, and I was kind of making our living with it, but Suzie was working in a grocery store and Duncan to help supplement us along the ways, and they pretty much sold everything we did, but it wasn't real fast and the prices weren't real high back then, so she helped supplement it. And then we got some of the print deals early on with Texas Art Press, and then McGaw Graphics, and then Toatin Publishing, but now we're publishing all of our prints on our own, and Suzie handles all that, and she does a mail order business with that and keeps us going, and so that's a lot better way to supplement things, all working on the same page together. And in the early years, she would take the calendars, and we lived out on Eagle Creek, which was an hour and a half from the nearest town, and so but she'd go to the county fairs and sell calendars and prints, and then started up a mail order business out there. And we didn't even have a phone out there. People just have to write in, and and the UPS would have to come pick them up. And I don't know if you remember the old UPS commercials where they had the truck way out in the country.
Right.
We were one of those people. So, and mail only come on Wednesdays, so it was a challenge, but she still made it work and has grown it from those early times.
Suzie, tell me about, from your perspective, kind of running the business, like how have things changed? I mean, obviously the world of the internet and social media and things, but I'm curious for your business and with the artwork, what that was like for you.
It changed a lot just in the last, I'd say 10 years. We got a lot of our orders by the mail. You know, that people would just write it on a piece of paper or use the order blank that we used to put in our catalogs. And now it's to where we get a minimal amount of mail. They either call in or they put their own order through on the website. It helped a lot to be able to have a website and take credit cards. When I first started, I would just send it out with a bill in it, an invoice, and have them mail me a check back, because I didn't know how to take credit cards. And eventually we converted it over, but I had very few times that people didn't pay us. They were really good. The dealers were worse than the retail players by a lot.
I'm not surprised about that.
Yeah.
What about I'm curious because art is so visual and so much of social media is a visual thing. Do you feel like social media has changed changed the business as far as like people getting to know you, discovering you, that kind of thing?
I think so, and you can tell them about the Facebook, I guess.
Well, we work our Facebook pretty hard. We want to interact with people, and we try to respond to every comment if we can. And we've grown it to 258,000 followers on Facebook. And we actually use that for our marketing as well. And it really helps us a lot. I wish it really changed whenever they changed the algorithms. You heard them talk about that.
Right.
They made it to where that you had to advertise for people to even see your page. And so we've finally gave in and started doing that, and it's paid off really well. We're up 60% year over year from last year on print sales. We can't sell originals right now. We have to wait till the fall, but we can sell a lot of prints. People are tired of looking at their walls.
They can't, with the cancellation of the art shows this year, they've had to move them to the fall. So hopefully they'll be able to have them in the fall.
Has that been something that's been a bit of a frustration for y'all with a lot of the quarantines and the cancellation, or more of a relief?
Well, we've always social distanced. We've already had down, so it don't bother us. And we lived, like I say, way out on Eagle Creek all those years. So it really didn't strike us personally that hard, but I know it's hurt a lot of artists that depend on the shows. And luckily we're at a stage in our career that we've got a little cushion, and with Suzie, like saying, up 60% on print sales. And so we're able to just keep rocking along, and surprised how well the business has picked up in these times. But I think maybe because people are cocooning at home and staying in their homes, they need something to look at in their walls so they don't go crazy. So, but
then they get bored and start shopping on the internet, huh?
Yes,
I think they are.
Yeah,
I'm down with that.
Tell me, Tim, about your process. I know you've worked on as a cowboy a lot, and you spend a lot of time, and imagine you're probably quite the photographer as well. But tell me kind of how that comes together for you to get to one of your paintings.
Well, I do take photographs, but there's a lot of photographs that go into one painting. It's not just and I am a terrible photographer. I'm not very mechanical at all. Susie's better with electronics and that kind of stuff and the computers, and I'm still old school. Like I say, we didn't even have a phone for 16 years. So and I just never have really adapted. But in the early years, I cowboyed all day and then painted all night. Like one place we lived, I had to go into the bathroom at night to paint because it had white walls and would reflect the light better. And I used 2 Coleman lanterns because we didn't, and a gas light on the wall there to be able to paint at night. And then I'd go cowboy all day and then paint all night for the galleries. One night I had painted all night and was working on the grass for a painting for a deadline of a show, and woke back up the next morning and a whole bunch of gnats had got in all the paint and got stuck in there. So I took a pair of tweezers and pulled the gnats out. Their legs stayed and kind of made it look like grass. So it worked out okay.
Did you ever have Susie come in and tell you that you better quit painting because you're about time to go back to work?
Oh yeah, quite often. But she's been real good about it. She don't have to tell me to paint. She has to tell me to back off and not do it so much. So
Back off. Yeah. What kind of time do you spend painting nowadays?
it's usually a 12-hour day. And I've gone down because it used to be 16 to 18-hour days sometime. My process just takes so long from coming up with the concept and then putting scrap material together to be able to see the details, and then drawing it in on the canvas or panel, whichever I use, and then blocking it in and painting it. And the detail part takes the longest time by far.
What's been y'all have had quite the journey. It sounds like to me, and very colorful and wonderful. What's been your biggest surprise that you've learned over the years?
Oh, it not very easy for one thing. I thought, I don't know, just the amount of time it takes and dealing with people, being kind of, like I say, not real social sometimes. And I enjoyed talking to people. I like being alone, and better if you're an artist because you're in the studio by yourself all day. So it all fits. But I don't know. Do you have any surprises?
What would you say is maybe like
we wouldn't tell anybody to try this on their own because we didn't know we couldn't do it, or we wouldn't have even tried. I'm sure if we would have had any sense at all, we wouldn't have tried to do this. But it's worked out well. There
was no other option. We were just going to do it. We lived in those old cow camps, so we didn't have to pay rent, and then cowboy, and then we did that for a number of years, and just there was never another option. It wasn't ever not going to happen, or should we back out and do something else. It was just, this is all it's what I've done, like I say, my whole life. It's just who I am.
How do you know how many paintings you've made in your lifetime?
We were trying to figure that out the other day, and Susie keeps fairly good records, but we haven't really counted them all up. But we're thinking somewhere between 350 to 450 paintings, and that's probably from the time, like I say, when I started in the galleries.
Wow, that's impressive. What's the biggest challenge from the business standpoint, Susie?
Oh, it's been a lot easier this year than it's been in the past. And we've got someone working with us at Facebook that's helping with our advertising and stuff. And like I said, it's just really kicking in. And we bought our own printer, and we're learning to print our own prints. And we'll still do the offset prints because we still are selling out offset print editions when very few people are. We're very fortunate. And so we just try to keep learning and growing and teaching ourselves new things.
What's it like working in a business with your spouse?
It's like being married twice.
Like working cows together?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah, he has an outside studio now, so it's not as close quarters as it was like when we were both in the same single wide on Eagle Creek. Him in one end and me in the other. But so we have a little social distancing even in the house because we're both working hard.
What about your children? They ever do any of them get into art? Do they get into the business?
But not into the business. My daughter's very creative, and she does leather work and makes bags and beads and all kinds of stuff. Very creative. And my son has the ability to draw, but he never has done it as a business. But every morning on a napkin, he draws a cartoon type character and does a real nice job of it for our granddaughter to put in her lunchbox every day with a saying on it.
Some kind of a motivational saying on it.
That's great.
And they've got stacks of those. They've saved them all. And so they're special to all of us.
And I never wanted to push them into it either, because if you're going to make it in this business, you have to love it, and you got to really have a passion for it. So you can't go into it half-heartedly, I don't feel, and because it'll show, for one thing, just like with country, with music or whatever, you've got to have the passion for it.
I'm sure you probably, like the rest of us, have hit walls at times in your career where maybe the passion was not quite as strong as other times. How do you work through those times when you've got to sit down at that easel and keep working?
It's part of being a professional. You go to your job every day and get it done, and that's the only way you can do it. Just push through it, and sometimes I'll go in and I'll scrape 2 weeks work off, and Susie really that frustrates her. But, so it gets frustrating at times because it didn't turn out exactly like I wanted. But and I still haven't painted the painting that I'm satisfied with. There's always a point in that painting that I think, this is the worst thing I ever done. I ought to just throw this away. But then just work through it and keep slugging at it. And I think that's probably why I can only work on one at a time, because I become so obsessed about it that I've got to keep working through it and not back off. There's been a few that I've put back because it was just taking too much time. Then I'd have to come back and work on it a little more, and things like that. 90% of the time I just push through it.
What's your biggest inspiration usually that's probably a too open-ended question. I guess what I'm curious about, obviously I can see your inspiration. It comes through in your paintings, and it's very inspiring for myself and many others. But has there been a time in your life or a particular ranch or just some period that has inspired you more, that sort of comes through in that vision that you have for your paintings?
That's why I think it's important to get out on the ranches all the time, is because that's where the inspiration does come from. And just seeing light and seeing the beauty of God's nature and animals and working with the guys and their talents and being able to capture that and preserve it.
What was the first painting that you ever sold?
Actually, it was of a moose, and I haven't done much wildlife. But that, like I said, I was 12 years old. And 90% of mine have had horses or cattle or something in them, and but the first one was a moose.
That's pretty good though, to sell your first painting at 12. So that's pretty impressive.
I don't know why my teacher bought it, but he still had it. The last time I knew, he had kept it all these years. And so it tickled me. And like I say, then it started all the kids thinking they wanted to buy some, and they'd offer me the money. I'm not a salesman. That's why I have Susie, because I'd just soon give it away. In fact, I give one painting to an old rancher. It didn't have a frame, and it was on a masonite panel, and he drove a nail through it and nailed it to the wall. So, but it pleased me because he wanted to hang it. So
That's good. What's coming up for you guys? Anything new? Anything different?
as far as the originals go, we got the show at the Cowboy Hall of Fame has been moved to September, so I'm actually working on another painting for it since I got a little more time, and then Settlers West Galleries in Tucson has their fall show that I'll be working forward, working to get something for.
I started to ask you about, all the awards you won over the years, but when I kind of started researching it, I realized that there's a whole bunch of them. And is there anything that you could talk about just in general in that realm of artists and the organizations that are out there that have honored you, and all deserving, of course, but rather than just go down a list and ask you about specific things, I just kind of wanted both of your thoughts on what that's like as far as that industry.
It's challenging because you never know who the judges are, and it's just kind of a handful of people's opinion at that time. And I don't put a lot of weight on winning awards so much. My people that I've always painted for, the ranchers and the people that are out there doing it, but it helps an artist's career to win the awards. I know when I won the Prix West, it brought a lot of attention and notoriety when I won the gold medal for the Prix West, and it helped a lot. And as far as making my career take off a little bit more.
Do y'all stay pretty busy with when we're not in this quarantine situation? Y'all stay pretty busy with traveling and art shows and such, or is that pretty rare?
No, it used to be I only did two shows a year,
Okay.
The Cowboy Artist of America show, and then the Prix West. I've done emeritus on the Cowboy Artists of America, so I haven't put anything in there in the last couple of years. I can if I want to, but after working so many hours for so long, I decided I just kind of chill out for a few years and see how things go.
Are you guys still ranching, still working other than artwork?
Well, we have usually around 20 head of horses here that we raise quarter horses, and mostly cutter nowadays. We got a few running horses, and got to keep my granddaughter in barrel horses, so we raise those for her, the running horse type for her. And and then we keep a few cows, because around here that we've just kind of kept through the years, that we kept out of our cows that we had bought for cutting. And so we got a few cows around, just like to have them around. But not big into ranching, but the horse raising part of it.
Yes, sir. You're doing your own training?
My daughter trains
She does.
a lot of them now. Yeah.
Okay. That's great. Well, I love horses, so.
That's my bad habit, I guess. I love horses. So
I think some of my first memories of your art that I can recall from a kid that stuck with me were a lot of the round pin and bronc training type pictures. What's the one? I think it's In the Bronc Corral. Maybe did I get that title right?
There's one but were you thinking of No More Sweet Talking? that was the first one of that series where he's got the foot tied up and the whole thing.
Could be. It was, 80s and 90s when I was trying to get my hands on every calendar that came out. So,
Yeah, I enjoyed doing those. I had a round pen that I had built on Eagle Creek, and so I enjoyed doing that. And that was a little bit before, right around the time that Tom Dorrance and Ray Hunt came out. So it's still the old school, tying the horse's foot up and roping them and doing that. And that horse that was in that painting, he was one of those horses that taught me everything a bad horse could do, from biting to kicking to running off to bucking, whatever. He tested me in pretty much every way. So
paid your dues. Have you used yourself as a model over the years?
At times, more in the early years than lately.
Right. That's great. Just such a colorful and blessed lifestyle. I just, really, I just can't thank you enough for, putting out an avenue for young kids like me to, I mean, not young anymore, but at the time, and to be able to, get a hold of that and see that. And y'all, you were sharing that with so many people, I'm sure, over the years that wouldn't otherwise been able to see it. What would you say to a young artist, who's laying on the floor, drawing on a paper sack and looking at a Tim Cox calendar?
I'd say, if you want to be successful in this, worry about the work, not so much the promotion, because I think people like helping people that have a passion and sharing in that passion. And if they see you have quality work, they will step up and help you. And I've been blessed that way all my life by people wanting to help me, and just like my wife's, and she helps me. I couldn't do it without her, but there's been people that through the years that have really invested a lot of time and knowledge to help me, and like Gordon Snido and Bill Owen and Jim Reynolds, other artists. That Gordon Snido invited me in the 80s to stay in his guest house all winter, and we had our son that was about 2 or 3 years old then, and he'd come over at night and give me a critique all the time, and for all, like I said, all winter, and that helped a lot. And then Bill Owen, when I got in the CA, we became really good friends, and we'd talk a lot about color. And Tom Ryan helped Bill Owen, and trying to help other young artists now with it too. So I'm always a student, but now I get to help other students.
And I would say that people should try to paint what they know about, not just go paint cowboys just because they're cool, unless you really study them, and then, let it be your passion.
That's a great piece of advice. That's wonderful. Is there anything that you guys would like to talk about that, promote, or anything that you have coming up that people, you want people to hear about?
I don't know of anything. We have brought out one of our pieces, Flowers for Mom, that was popular, and we did it in a different size, and have got canvas and paper limited editions, and we're quite excited about that. And check out our Facebook page. That's where the newest information is, and our website at timcox.com.
And Instagram too.
Yes, Instagram.
Our daughter-in-law helps with that, so she helps a lot with that.
Great. Yeah, I love the Instagram, and such a visual product on such a visual platform. I think it's wonderful.
It's made it a lot easier to promote yourself as an artist. The whole business model for artists has changed greatly since I got in the business. It used to be you had to be in a gallery, and a gallery would promote you. Now you can kind of do it on your own, and it's kind of hurt the galleries, but because a lot of artists are doing it on their own. But still, I think you need a gallery presence also, and especially for resales.
Right.
And, to help on that, to have somebody in that's, Stuart Johnson's been a big help to us all these years and through the years. And Candy Bedner was the one that first took me in when I was 17 at Trailside Galleries, and she became my art mother. And she was a wonderful lady.
Great. Well, I think everybody's going to look forward to running straight to your Facebook and your Instagram if they're not familiar with you. I have a hard time believing there's too many out there that aren't familiar with you, but for those that aren't, hopefully I can get you a few more followers at the very least.
Well,
That'd be great.
Appreciate it.
Thank
and
you.
We enjoyed getting to do this with you, and we appreciate you having us on.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to be on the show. Appreciate it.
Been fun.
Thank you.
It is the feeling of freedom, space, light, amazing landscapes, the honesty and values of the Western spirit and family. I paint the details because in the agricultural business, it is the small details that make the difference between survival or failure or life and death. This is what I know. It has been part of my heritage as far back as I can trace my family tree. Cowboy art is my passion. I paint for the people that live this life and those that would like to.
Hi, this is Susie. We have a wide variety of Western art available for sale. Experience the West through Tim's eyes. Call us at 505-632-8080 or visit timcox.com.